All right, so welcome to Saturday, November 10th. Today we're going to be doing the first installment of Bird Dog's Stardom and Situm for Week 10 of the NFL season. Unfortunately, I'm getting started, 9 weeks late into the season with my YouTube channel, but we'll just pick up this week and we'll go towards the rest of the season, and we'll do this every Saturday. I'm a fantasy guy. I've been doing fantasy for a long time. I've been doing fantasy football for a long time. I consider myself somewhat of a fantasy guru, or at least I'm going to pretend to be on YouTube here. Most of my seasons, I finish around, the top 2 or 3 within my league. So I have a pretty good reputation going for myself. So we're going to continue with that, and hopefully I can share some insight for you guys moving forward as well. So let's start at the quarterback position. So my stardoms for this week, my first stardom is going to be Ben Roethlisberger. We're gonna want to start Big Ben this week. It's definitely going to be an important play for you guys to start Big Ben this week. Pittsburgh's playing a terrible Colts team that has just been ravaged with injuries. Big Ben is going to throw all over the place on Indianapolis this Sunday, I have a feeling. Number 2 stardom is Cam Newton. Cam's been kind of hot and cold all year. I know I have him in one of my fantasy leagues. Some weeks he plays super well for me. Some weeks he gets 9 points. It's just kind of a hit or miss. But luckily this week they are playing Miami. And Miami is terrible as well. So Cam Newton should be able to throw the ball all over the place against Miami. So I'm going to go with a big start for Cam Newton this week. Second is going to be Jared Goff. So I think Jared Goff is going to have a big week. Houston's defense, their whole team is kind of depleted. I think that for the most part, they've been killed with injuries both on offense and defensive side in the last couple weeks. Losing J.J. Watt, their captain, their catalyst is really has really hurt them in the last couple weeks. And I mean, Indianapolis, Brissett looked like he was a top 10 quarterback last week against the Houston defense. So I look for that to kind of continue on. I look for Jared Goff, who's having a fantastic season so far. He's really going to utilize all of his weapons. And I think that Jared Goff is a really smart play this week. As for the situms, Tyrod Taylor is my first situm, playing against the Saints. The Saints defense, shockingly, has been a top 10 defense in the league. Nobody, I don't think, saw that coming. They've been really good at cutting down yards for quarterbacks throughout this year, so I'm going to go with that trend. Tyrod Taylor doesn't have Zay Jones playing in this week either. I see Zay Jones, or I see Buffalo really playing to Shady McCoy's strengths this week. A lot of dump offs, a lot of running the ball, and a lot of short routes to Calvin Benjamin to kind of keep it simple. So I don't see Tyrod Taylor's points being too high this week. So he's a situm. Number 2, Kirk Cousins. We're going to continue on with cold Kirk Cousins. He hasn't been that hot all year. He's definitely had a step back year from last year. And I don't like the matchup this week against Minnesota. Minnesota's been a team that's really impressed me. I really like their defense this year. I know they are playing in Washington, but I am going to say sit Kirk Cousins this week against that Minnesota defense. Number 3, Eli Manning. This is going to be the worst matchup of the year. The Giants versus the 49ers. It's probably going to be 6-3 49ers this week. Eli Manning doesn't have anyone to throw to. Do not count on him having any sort of breakout game against the 49ers. I know their defense isn't that hot either, but both teams just suck so bad. Eli Manning, if you have him on your team, he's definitely a guy you're going to want to sit on your bench. Okay. Let's move to the running back position. The first stardom is going to be Duke Johnson. Might be a little bit shocking to you guys, but Detroit has let up a lot of yards on the run this year. Their front four has been very soft. Losing Haloti Ngata, big hit for them. Jarrad Davis hasn't been that big of an impact player up the middle yet. I look for Duke Johnson's speed to really take advantage of the front four and really take a toll on Detroit's defense in the first half. So I'm looking for Duke Johnson to have one of those breakout, standout games, a 15-pointer. The second stardom is Christian McCaffrey. Despite his slow start, Christian McCaffrey has become quite the weapon. I know I have him on my squad, and in a PPR league, he's a must start. He's getting at least five catches a game. He's getting 20 rushes. He's averaging me around 15 to 20 points per week. So he's a guy you have to get in that lineup this week. Jordan Stewart's really taken a step back when it comes to the rushes that he's taking. So I'm going to go with that strength, and we're going to play Christian McCaffrey this week. In the third, Alfred Morris. No Zeke. Finally, it's been back and forth. So finally, so we have some clarity on things when it comes to the Dallas backfield. Alfred Morris is going to be taking the majority of the snaps this week against the Falcons defense. So Alfred Morris is a start for me. On the sit side of things, first sit, Amir Abdullah. Come on, man. Oh God, he is killing me. The guy hasn't had a 100 rush game. The guy, 2 fumbles last week. I don't even see him getting much action. I honestly, if I had the choice, I think Theo Riddick's a better start over Amir Abdullah. I wouldn't give Amir Abdullah the ball at all this week. So he's definitely a sit him for me. CJ Anderson might be a little bit of a surprise, but I wouldn't sit him either. He's been a little banged up the last couple weeks. He hasn't practiced much this week. Playing on Sunday night against the Pats. The Pats defense has not been great. Don't get me wrong. But I know C.J. Anderson's banged up. So with that combined with Belichick on a primetime game, C.J. Anderson's a sit-em for me. I don't see him getting more than about 50, 60 yards. And then the third, Kenyon Drake. He had a bit of beginner's luck last week, I think. But I don't see him against Carolina's defense mustering up too much offense. I would definitely sit Kenyon Drake this week. Moving on to the wide receiver position, must start him. Juju Smith. Juju, my boy. I'm going to go with him until he fizzles out. I think he's going to have a nice week. Pittsburgh has a nice matchup against a terrible Indianapolis defense. Big Ben, Juju, they're going to light it up again on this Sunday, so make sure he's in your lineup if you have him. Number 2, Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones has had a quiet year, but he's had a very impactful year. He's not putting up the yards per reception that we expect him to as a number 1 WR, but he is getting those touchdowns. He's a red zone threat. He's Stafford's number 1 go-to in the red zone. I think that continues since the Lions don't have a running game. When they get within the red zone, they're going to be looking for Marvin Jones. They can't trust Ebron because he doesn't have any hands, and Golden Tate's he's a north-south guy right now, so he's not going to be that touchdown threat. So Marvin Jones, he's the guy you're going to want to start, and then Sammy Watkins might be a surprise, but I really like that matchup for the Rams this week. I really like the Rams versus Houston. And I like Sammy Watkins this week. I know it's been a slow start since he's been traded to the Rams from Buffalo. He's only had, he got 3 touchdowns this year, and 2 of them were in game 2, and then last one was last week. But I think that now that they've had about 9 weeks to work together, I think Sammy Watkins is going to start to have a stronger second half of the season, and I like him as a start against Houston's defense this week. As for the sits, Will Fuller as my first sit. I don't like Tom Savage is terrible. I'll be honest with each other. He's not going to be able to get the ball to Will Fuller. If anyone, he's going to get the ball to Hopkins because Hopkins is their number 1. Will Fuller is not going to get that many touches. He's not going to get that many plays. So I definitely think we have to sit him this week. Number 2, maybe a surprising one as well, but against Pittsburgh's daunting defense, T.Y. Hilton. He's had a really hot last couple of weeks. He's looked really good. He's probably looked like the best wide receiver in football at some points this year. He's going to be a sit-in for me this week. I know it would be a really gutsy move if you have that deep of wide receiver where you'd sit a wide receiver too. But if you have other guys on your bench that have more favorable matchups, T.Y. Hilton's a guy that I probably wouldn't be scared or embarrassed of leaving on my bench this week. Number 3, Danny Amendola. The guy's been banged up all year. Hasn't got a lot of attention from Tom Brady. I know Chris Hogan's hurt, and I know Danny Amendola is pretty banged up right now, but I don't see him going off. I see this being more of a tight end running back type of game for New England to win in Denver, especially with that defense. So I'm going to sit Danny Amendola. Last but not least, we're going to move to the tight ends. My first stardom for tight end is going to be Austin Hooper. He's a guy that's been on a slow rise since the beginning of the season. I think he's really coming into his own. I like the matchup against Dallas' secondary. Dallas' secondary is pretty much picked apart. So I really like Austin Hooper to play the middle of the field this week against Dallas and put up some pretty decent yards. He's had a couple good games in a row. I know that I've had him on my team pretty much all year, and he's done nothing but positive for me, and I think that continues on this week. Number 2, Evan Engram, for the Giants. He's a stardom for me. They don't have anyone else to throw to. All their wide receivers are dead. So, Evan, you're getting the ball, bud. In third, Tyler Kroft, Cincinnati, behind A.J. Green. He's their second most popular target right now. So I look for Tyler Kroft kind of to build off of what he's been doing the last couple weeks. Tennessee's defense is nothing that really scares me too much. They have the middle of the field should be pretty much open for Tyler Kroft to get about 6 to 8 catches for about 80 yards, maybe even a touchdown. So he's a play for me. Sit Eric Ebron. The guy's got brick hands. He sucks. He's terrible. He's embarrassing. Don't ever play him ever again. Jason Witten is probably a surprise, but he isn't getting a lot of action this year. I know he's clearly slowed down. He's clearly on the tail end of his career. Even though Atlanta's defense isn't very good, I still don't like him as a play this week just because they're not showing him the ball. So I'm going to lay off of him. And then last but not least is Julius Thomas. He plays on Miami. Do I really have to say anything else? Sit that man. Jay Cutler, smoking Jay Cutler, not going to be getting the ball to him. Parker and Landry are going to get the majority of the catches, if they get any, against Carolina's defense this Monday. So those are my starters and sit-ems for Week 10 of the NFL season. Listen to me. Don't listen to me. Do what you want to do. That's all I have to say about fantasy football for this week. So I go.